beach is not just what we see above low tide. The beach extends out hundreds of metres and it's constantly moving.
The sand dunes have a vital function in how the dynamics of the system work. They're where the sand gets deposited in good times, and when the really bad times come, that sand is taken offshore, which then limits the height and the destructive power of waves, which can impact further on the coast. There's a little bit of history involved, I think, and perhaps we should go into it.
During the 50s and early 60s, the houses along much of Main Beach here were moved about 30 metres landward because where they'd been built became the new erosion scarp.
And that's when John Kindler and Colin O'Connor, they wrote quite a good small report, and that we should start gathering some data. The 1967 cyclone was very frightening. It was pretty much panic stations, and if we'd been sitting here in June 67, the waves were breaking over our head. But it did bring home to people the vulnerability of this coast unless some measures were taken to improve what was here in the way of protection and develop and live with the nature a bit better.
The Delft report was a milestone for the Gold Coast. The Dutch were experts at dredging and we needed that help.
One of the reasons that John Kindler chose to recommend engagement of Delft was that Delft had a very strict policy that they wouldn't just do the job, but they would advise you and transfer as much of their technology to you as they could.
By the time Delft left, we had our own homegrown experts. What is interesting now is that the Dutch send their students to the Gold Coast to learn what we're doing.
So what happened after the Delft report was produced was that Council, with state government support, started to construct rock groins, seawalls. They implemented a major program of beach nourishment and dredging of the two major creeks on the Gold Coast, Tallebudgera and Currumbin.
The Gold Coast boulder wall is a standard. It was developed as what survived 72.
So the strategy on the Gold Coast is we have our reference point, which is the A line. It's our last line of defence, and in front of that we keep a beach as wide as we possibly can by beach nourishment.
Since the 67 cyclones, we've been gradually widening the beaches. We had about 20 kilometres of exposed boulder wall. Since then, we've put millions of cubic metres of sand onto the beach.
The Gold Coast City Council implemented a program of surveying our beaches right back in the 1960s in partnership with the state government, and that's been ongoing ever since. So that's our fundamental data set. And if you do that regularly and continuously, you really get a really fantastic understanding of the way the beach is behaving in response to environmental conditions. And so I think that there's been a great deal of innovation in the way we approach coastal management on the Gold Coast over quite a number of decades.
The stabilisation of the Nerang River mouth and the sand bypassing system, the first of its type in the whole world, and it worked, and it still works, that's another great achievement.
The data that's been collected over the last 10 years from video cameras and other measurements that have been taken at Nerang clearly show that it's been a highly successful device or structure for maintaining the health of the beach in terms of the beach width, and that's been its primary objective. We've now got a new plan for the future, which is setting out a range of recommendations for how we can move forward.
The beaches, in my opinion, are the basis of the tourist industry. We've gone from a stage where in the late 1960s, the whole development of the coast was really in peril. The beaches here now really will withstand almost anything nature will throw against. Certainly you'll get times when there'll be big scarps and very little walkable beach in some areas, but that's the way dynamic beaches work.